When we have high cortisol and we're in this high stress state, this fight or flight, we're going to see more belly fat. We're going to see more insulin resistance. We're also going to see increased inflammation. And when inflammation goes up, it blocks your fat burning pathways. All of those things trigger your body to store more fat and burn less calories, making weight loss really challenging. Your cortisol is always going to be highest in the morning. It's supposed to. We want that. But it's supposed to come down throughout the day. And for a lot of women, it does not, because we are not eating. We're having coffee on an empty stomach. The HIIT trainings, the boot camps, the F45s, the Orange Theories, they are actually doing more harm than good to your body. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness coaching company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it's the hot flashes, the night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or waking around the middle. That seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere, despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. You are putting in all this effort and you are just moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, we are talking all things cortisol and stress and how that's going to impact your ability to burn fat and how it can actually get you stuck in a state where you are just constantly storing fat despite eating less, despite eating more. So we're going to talk about those pathways today. This is part 3 of a 4-part series. So we've already talked about insulin. We've already talked about estrogen. And there are multitudes of hormones that are going to be able to impact your ability to lose fat. There are so many hormonal imbalances that can block your fat burning pathways, that can get you stuck in that storage mode so that your body is told, we have enough, let's store, despite eating less, despite moving more, despite eating clean and hitting your protein and getting your veggies in. If your body is constantly stuck in this state and fat burning is blocked, you can do all the right things and never see changes. And this is something that we see with women all of the time. And so before we really dive into this, talk a bit more about those fat burning pathways, how cortisol is going to impact this, how to improve it, what you need to watch for, the nutrients that you need to make sure that you're eating, and all of those impactful things and how it relates to perimenopause and menopause specifically. I do want to mention that this is the last week for registration for our group coaching program. It is an 8-week program. You get one-to-one support with a coach who's adjusting your nutrition as your body's responding to make sure that we are giving your body exactly what you need, focusing on improving these hormonal imbalances to open up those fat burning pathways just in time for summertime so you can enjoy summer, feel good, feel strong, look the way that you want to look, and be free of those symptoms so you can really enjoy the holidays the way they're meant to be enjoyed without over restricting. You can enjoy this more. You can have hot dogs over the fire. You can have a patio drink, right? So understanding how to get your hormones working for you so your fat burning pathways are open. And so let's dive into cortisol. If you want more information on that group coaching program, that 8-week program that we're running, you can head to the show notes for that. So first of all, we have that fat burning pathway that we talked about. Very important. When this fat burning pathway is opened up, we can release fat into our bloodstream, break it down for energy, lose those inches. When that fat burning pathway is open, we have less inflammation. We have better insulin sensitivity, so our blood sugars are in a better place, and we can eat up all the dead cells that are increasing inflammation, that are progressing disease like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all of those things. So very good to be able to go into it. Then we have that fat storing pathway, that growth and storage pathway, and it's not bad because we do need to access that pathway to build muscle. However, when we are constantly stuck in this state of the growth pathway, we have worse insulin resistance. We have our inflammation that goes up. Inflammation will block fat burning pathway even more. Insulin resistance will continue to push you into that storage pathway. When we are stuck in this pathway, we see disease progression happen because we don't get into autophagy. Our body can't get rid of those dead cells or damaged cells, and then they replicate. And this is where we can see increase in chronic disease risks like cancers and diabetes and cardiovascular disease. We do not want that. And of course, we're going to see a lot of fat storage despite doing all the right things. And so that pathway is not bad. It's just when we're overstimulated in it, when we're stuck in that pathway and our fat burning is blocked and we can't flip between the two, where we have an issue. And so cortisol is going to have a massive impact on this. If you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you know that I talk about cortisol a lot because cortisol is the puppeteer master. It controls everything. It's going to impact our sex hormones. It's going to impact our blood sugar, our thyroid function, our liver health, detoxification, digestion, bloating, muscle mass, energy, sleep, all the things that we typically struggle with. And so cortisol ends up being this hidden root cause that a lot of people don't realize. And so we're trying to address, our blood sugar specifically, which is important. But if cortisol is always high or it starts getting low because we've been stressed for too long, then we see that's being the reason that our blood sugar is not in a good place. And so we really need to assess this and look at this. And so with cortisol, what happens is it blocks your fat burning pathway and overstimulates that storage pathway. So what this means is when we are in a state of chronic stress, when we were go, go, go all of the time and we're doom scrolling and we've got deadlines and we've got grief and trauma and taking care of sick parents and our kids are driving us crazy and we're trying to manage career and relationships and we're trying to figure out date night, but we're also trying to lose weight and we're cutting calories and cutting carbs and fasting and skipping meals and, having a protein bar for lunch. And then we're just go, go, go and working through our lunch. We're picking up our kids and we're also having to do the laundry and the cleaning and all the things. Right? Plus we're not sleeping. That's all stress. And when we have high cortisol and we're in this high stress state, this fight or flight, like we are all of the time, we're going to see more belly fat. We're going to see more insulin resistance and we're going to see muscle loss. All of those things trigger your body to store more fat and burn less calories, making weight loss really challenging. We're also going to see increased inflammation. And when inflammation goes up, it blocks your fat burning pathways. It makes your blood sugar control worse. It's going to negatively impact your thyroid, making your body worse at burning calories. We're going to see inflammation leads to higher blood pressure, cardiovascular disease risk, the diabetes risk, right? We see all of these disease progressions because of that. And so why is this happening? And this is because cortisol is going to trigger something called gluconeogenesis. This is high blood sugars. Our body needs energy when we're stressed out. Our body doesn't know that we're just sitting here upset because of what some people posted on social media. Our body perceives it as stress plus that blue light, right? And so what happens is gluconeogenesis, which means our cortisol tells our body to dump sugar in our bloodstream despite the fact that we're not eating, despite the fact that there's no carbs present, despite the fact that we are fasting, despite the fact that we aren't actually doing anything that requires that excess energy need. And what that leads to is insulin resistance, because what happens is you get this cycle of body's perceived stress. You might not feel like you are stressed. Internally, your body is perceiving it as so. You don't need to perceive that it's stress. You could be like, oh, things used to be so much worse before. Oh, like things are better now than they used to be. I don't feel that stress. I'm busy, but I manage it. I'm busy, but I love it. Your body's still going to perceive that as stress. This is how I am. I love my job. It is busy. It is very fulfilling. I am constantly innovating and doing new things and creating our certification and writing our book and leading our team. And, I love it. We are creating such a massive impact and I absolutely love my career. I love it. And then I have my family and I have a lot of roles, right? But I love it. But that is a stress on my body. I took my Dutch test. My cortisol levels were so high, despite the fact that I don't perceive those things as stress. My body does. And so this is why it's important to understand that you might not feel stressed, but then the symptoms that you are experiencing, and we do the Dutch testing, and yes, you are stressed. This is why we do testing with our clients, because sometimes we can outthink ourselves and be like, oh no, I'm actually fine. And then you do the test and it's like, oh, it's a bit of a reality check, that slap in the face that we need. And so what happens is we may not feel like we're stressed, but our body is. And so when our body perceives that as stress, it's going to take muscle. Well, first it's going to tell your liver to dump sugar into your bloodstream. So it's going to use up those stores. If this continues over time, then your body's going to break down muscle mass, take it to your liver, turn it into sugar, dump it into your bloodstream. We don't want that, because less muscle means our body burns less calories at rest, making fat loss harder. We see more inflammation because then our mitochondria aren't in as good of a place. And we also see worse blood sugar control, which pushes us into that storage pathway, which is not good. And so what happens in the stress state is sugar gets dumped into your bloodstream. Insulin comes up because it's like the little messenger, that little taxi that takes the sugar molecule and takes it to your cells to be used for energy, because your body's like, hey, I need energy because I'm stressed. I need to meet this demand. Even though you're physically not doing anything, your body is like, oh, there's increased demand on our system. We need energy to meet that response, right? To meet that stimulus, to be able to do the thing that we want to do. So your body thinks that you need energy because you need to fight the bear or run away from the bear, when really you're just sitting at your desk pissed off because you don't like your job and you've got a deadline looming and you're wondering about what you're going to have for lunch later, right? And all the other things that are going on in our mind. Our body doesn't know the difference. And so then insulin comes up and takes the sugar and takes it to our cells. But what happens is we're not eating, we're still overstressed, we're go, go, go. And so our body constantly says, we need more energy, need more energy, need more energy. And so your body keeps dumping sugar into your bloodstream despite the fact that you're fasting, despite the fact that you are not eating very much and you're not having carbohydrates. Sugar keeps getting dumped. Every time sugar goes into the bloodstream, insulin needs to come up to use it, to move it in our body to a place where we can actually use it. And so then this cycle just keeps happening. Then blood sugar drops because insulin's doing its job. Body goes, oh, I need more energy, dumps more sugar into our bloodstream, right? And so before that happens, you might have intense cravings and stuff, right? Because your body's looking for energy. Or you never feel hungry because this process is just happening in your body all of the time. And you're also becoming leptin resistance, which we did a whole podcast on that beforehand that you should go listen to, because that's what a lot of women are struggling with as well, which can make you, again, store fat. So this cycle just keeps happening. And cortisol will always win. We can address blood sugar, right? You can try and address insulin resistance, but if you never fix the root cause of what is dumping sugar into your bloodstream, you're not taking control of that. You're not allowing your body to rest and recover. Blood sugars are always going to rise. Insulin's going to keep coming up. And then you become insulin resistant because our body is so used to the nagging of like the insulin knocking on the door to deliver sugar into the cells. It's like when your kids like ignore you. You know, the first time that you get mad at them or tell them not to do something, they usually listen the first few times, right? Like, but over time they get used to you nagging, or they get used to you like, you know, telling them to do things, and they just start ignoring you. So then it takes more effort and you getting more upset to get their attention. That's what's happening in our body. We need more and more insulin to actually open those doors, because our cells are very good at ignoring insulin because it's always there. So we become more insulin resistant. And then when that happens, we need sugars to go somewhere. So where does it go? Fat cells. Insulin's going to put you into that storage and growth pathway. So you're going to see this cycle happening over and over and over again. And cortisol will always win. And then we see that with this, it keeps that fat burning pathway blocked. Because if insulin's up, fat burning pathway is blocked. We're in that growth pathway, that storage pathway. Cortisol will block that fat burning pathway. Okay, we're going to see that increase in that storing pathway. And then again, we're seeing more fat storage. We're losing muscle because we're trying to use that for energy. That's what's happening in this stress-driven state. And that's not all, because yes, cortisol is going to control blood sugar substantially, but it also controls our hormones. If cortisol is high, when it's elevated, progesterone tanks, estrogen tanks, testosterone tanks. When those things get worse, guess what? Blood sugar gets worse, pushing us in that storage pathway. Inflammation gets worse, blocking that fat burning pathway. We're going to see our thyroid function slows down, which blocks that fat burning pathway, makes our body worse at burning calories, making weight loss very hard and weight gain very easy. We're going to see muscle loss, despite the fact that you're busting your butt in the gym. You're not getting fit and toned and you don't know why. This is part of it. And so when we lose muscle mass, now we're going to see that we don't look the way that we want. Our blood sugar control gets even worse. We have even more inflammation, which boom, blocks fat burning and pushes us in that storage pathway. We see that our liver detox abilities get worse when we're under stress. And what happens there is then toxins accumulate in our body. Our body needs to store it somewhere if it's struggling to keep up. Gets stored in fat cells. When it gets stored in fat cells, it changes the structure of the cell, making it even harder for our body to break down, because now it takes a lot more effort to break down that fat cell because it's got a different structure to it, making fat loss even more challenging. We're going to see our gut health gets worse. We get more inflammation. Oh, boom, now we have bloating and again, a blocked fat burning pathway. We're going to see an increase in our blood pressures. That's what happens with cortisol. Stress, major cause of heart attacks and things like that, cardiovascular disease. Our heart rate starts to elevate. Our heart variability gets worse, a sign that we're never in that rest and digest portion of our nervous system. We have more indigestion. We have constipation. We're not going to the restroom daily. That's all signs that we're dealing with elevated cortisol levels. And so then we end up giving medication for certain hormones. We end up giving medication for our thyroid, our cardiovascular disease things, gut health stuff. But is that the root cause? The problem is still happening underneath the surface, which is cortisol. And so some symptoms of this are that you're struggling with weight gain despite doing everything right. You're struggling with headaches. You're struggling with hormonal imbalances, digestive issues, mood swings, struggling with poor sleep where you're struggling to fall asleep or you wake up between like 2 and 4 a.m. trying to solve world hunger, right? We've got blood sugar control issues. We have more inflammation and fluid retention, more bloating. Our rings start to feel tight on our fingers. We have low energy or we're experiencing crashes in the afternoon. We're struggling with brain fog and the ability to focus. We get sick easily. We struggle to recover when we do get sick. Our thyroid numbers get worse. We're feeling wired but tired, like we're exhausted, but we can't shut our brains off. We're struggling with anxiety and overwhelm. We're dealing with crazy cravings and we just can't seem to lose weight no matter what we do. And so what causes cortisol? What is the issue here? And so first, I want to talk about how perimenopause plays into roles of this, because you might not struggle with this until you hit your 40s, right? But really, you've been dealing with it for a long time. It's not made apparent until you're in your 40s. And here's why. With cortisol, what happens is that's our stress. What we can tolerate for stress and cortisol is going to change as our hormones start to change. So what happens is before you could handle a 9 out of 10. Before on the stress scale before cortisol went up. And that when that cortisol goes up, that's when we start seeing hormonal imbalance symptoms, poor hormone profile, blood sugars getting worse, the craving, the struggle with sleep, the poor energy, the muscle loss, the bloating, the inflammation, the liver detox symptoms, low thyroid function, all of those things. Before those things happen, it doesn't happen until we hit that 9 out of 10 on the stress scale. When estrogen starts to decline, one of estrogen's roles is to keep inflammation down, support blood sugars, which when those are high are also going to increase cortisol. But estrogen also helps keep our cortisol in check. It buffers it. So you could handle a 9 out of 10 before things went out of control because estrogen was there to buffer. You know, when there's always a good cop, bad cop in a parent situation, right? So there's the bad cop and the good cop is de-escalating the situation, keeps the peace. That's estrogen. When she's gone, things can explode a lot easier, right? Things can combust. And so before you could handle a 9 out of 10 because estrogen was there to keep the peace. Now you can only handle a 5 out of 10 before you start to see thyroid function get worse, the weight gain, the bloating, the hormonal symptoms, poor hormone profile, worse blood sugar control, the more bloating, the inflammation, all of those things. So it's almost like you had this dinner plate and you had all this stress piled up on top of it. And now estrogen declines. Now that big dinner plate has turned to a side salad plate and then a dessert plate, and it gets smaller and smaller. And so now we're seeing the negative side effects with way less stress because your stress tolerance has decreased now that estrogen has gone down. And so this is where you can be like, I haven't changed anything. I haven't changed my exercise. I haven't changed my routine. I haven't changed my nutrition. And all of a sudden, everything's going to crap and nothing's working anymore. You didn't change anything. Internally, your body did. So now we need to adjust the outside to match the inside. But instead, what you do is you add more stress to the system by eating less, by moving more, by fasting and skipping meals. And, just adding all that extra stress of trying to lose weight actually makes you gain weight because it makes cortisol go up higher. And we see more inflammation and we see more blood sugar issues, right? And so you didn't change anything, but internally your body did. So now we have to learn to work with your body and this new hormone profile to set you up for success because that peacekeeper is gone. So we don't get mad at the house falling apart and being mad at the house. We have to realize that we need to reinforce our team. We need to put in these different buffers because now estrogen is gone. So we need to learn to buffer stress. We're not going to always take it away. That's not realistic. We can't help that we're dealing with sick parents. We can't deal or change the fact that, we lose a loved one. We can't always change the fact that we live a high pressure lifestyle, right? Where our work is very busy and hectic. So we need to learn how to buffer that stress because we can't always take it away. That's not realistic. So we have to realize that when we're talking about causes of this elevated cortisol, it literally comes from everything. Chronic dieting, if you have dieted a lot, if you have done low calorie for a long time, if you're still low calorie, if we're like under 1,500 calories, 1,600 calories, you're probably eating too little and you've been doing it for too long. If you've been eating low carb, if you've done multiple diet attempts in your lifetime, just eating too little in general, or if you've done a fat loss phase, but you were in it for more than 12 weeks, that's also a stress. The types of exercise that we do. I know there's all the research on the HIIT training and all that stuff, and we're going to do a podcast on that specifically, but that you only reap the benefits if your body can tolerate it and it's in a place where your stress threshold is good. It is very rare I ever speak to a woman who is in a position where their body can handle that. And so it ends up being harmful instead of beneficial. And so we need to really assess, is this appropriate for you? For most people, it is not. The HIIT trainings, the circuit camps, the boot camps, the F45s, the Orange Theories, they are actually doing more harm than good to your body. So that's a stress on your body. Lack of sleep. If you are struggling with sleep, that is a massive stress on your body and will cause your body to store fat, despite the fact that you're eating less and moving more through a bunch of mechanisms. If we're having the standard American diet, highly processed foods, this includes your health foods, the protein bars, the protein pancakes, the keto bars, the low carb breads, the keto wraps, those are all highly processed foods. So those in turn can also increase a ton of inflammation, blocking your fat burning pathway, increasing that stress on your body, which is going to cause you to store fat. Toxin exposure. This is from perfumes and laundry detergents and consuming plastics, warming up food in plastic containers, eating lots of takeout food. There's a lot of stuff here when we're talking about toxin exposures. That's another thing, especially if you are not hydrating, especially if you're not pooping every day. Toxin accumulation is a big one. Huge stress on the body, lots of inflammation, blocked fat burning pathway. But then there's also just overstimulation. Are you always on? Do you always have to be distracted by screens, music, podcast, loud noise, being in busy environments? That also increases stress. When's the last time you drove in just silence? You didn't have to listen to a podcast or music to be distracted or feel like you have to be overproductive and you always have to constantly be learning. When's the last time you just sat in silence, went for a walk without your AirPods, sat outside and just drank a cup of tea with nothing else going on? We need to take that back. Then we've also got things like trauma and grief. I have been through both of those so much, and that is a massive stress on your body, which if you've been exposed to that for a very long time, your stress threshold is going to be lower and it's going to be very hard to increase. And that's something that you're going to have to pay attention to for a long time. This is something for me. I cannot be in fat loss for more than 8 weeks because my body crashes and crashes hard. And I start gaining weight at 1,500 calories. It happens every single time. I always test it because I think I'm better now. And it's just learning to work with your body and understanding what it's been through. Then we have things like hormonal imbalances, low progesterone, for example, low estrogen, low testosterone, low T3. Those are all going to influence cortisol and vice versa to create more stress. They're not there to buffer anymore. If we're having too many stimulants, caffeine, how much caffeine are you having? That increases cortisol substantially. And then also life changes, even if they're good life changes, like moving to a new place, having a new job, maybe getting out of a bad relationship. They're good, but that's still a big life change, and that is perceived as a stress on your body. Change and uncertainty is a huge stress on your body. Then we also have blue light exposure. We're in front of screens all the freaking time, like I am right now, right? Nutrient deficiencies are a big one, like magnesium. If we're like deficient in magnesium, we know that's going to be an issue because magnesium helps calm your nervous system, brings that cortisol down, it helps support your adrenals. And we know that if you're deficient in magnesium, you're going to have more anxiety, poor sleep, and fatigue. Those things will increase cortisol even more. And we know magnesium is going to be depleted by stress, highly processed foods. So, your bakery items, your donuts, your chocolate, your chips, alcohol is a big one, coffee, exercise. So supplementing with magnesium, very important. We have a whole supplement guide that you guys can download if you want, that will have information on this. But if you join our 8-week program, we actually give you supplement recommendations based on what your hormonal symptom assessment shows so that we can help support those and open up those fat burning pathways for you. Then we have B vitamins. These are super important for helping with your calming cortisol response, helping support your hormonal function. And we know B vitamins are depleted by stress, birth control, alcohol, and poor digestion. So we highly recommend all women are supplementing with a B vitamin. They're very hard to absorb as well. So supplementing is always recommended. Vitamin C is really important as well because that's going to be required to make cortisol and actually prevent adrenal fatigue. So if you're in a high stress state and you can't keep up, this is where we start to see a lot of issues as well. Plus, it's an antioxidant, so it helps buffer the inflammation that we typically experience, especially when we're over 40. And so that's going to help open up those fat burning pathways because if inflammation and cortisol are high, we're really going to struggle with opening up that fat burning pathway. It's going to stay blocked. And we know vitamin C is going to be depleted by inflammation. And vitamin C helps bring inflammation down, so very important. High cortisol output will completely deplete your vitamin C as well. And chronic illness. So making sure you're getting vitamin C through fruit is super important. Then we have zinc. We know zinc is very important for immune regulation, supporting hormone production. And we know that if there's low zinc, there's actually like a feedback loop that happens that makes your adrenal access, your stress response system dysfunctional. And we don't want that. We know that zinc is very crucial for sleep and recovery as well. And zinc is going to be depleted by stress again, by high sugar intake, think like chocolate and cookies and donuts and croissants. We're also going to see it depleted by gut health issues and actually like sweat. So if you work out really hard, you're probably going to need a little bit more zinc too. Sodium and potassium, very important for electrolyte balance and helping with our cortisol control, blood pressure, things like that. And if we're really low on sodium and potassium, we can actually see that we have like burnout or adrenal insufficiency, which is not a good place to be. You're typically going to have a lot more bloating as well. And then getting enough protein. We know that if you are not getting enough protein, we are going to see major issues in your stress response system. It's key for making sure you're having good sleep, nervous system control, serotonin production, which is your happy hormone to help with anxiety and calming your mind, helps with mood balance. And so we know that if you have low protein intake, you are going to have a poor stress tolerance and really poor recovery. So we need to make sure that we're like assessing all these things, right? This is what we do in coaching. We do the Dutch testing. We do assessments where we're looking at all these things and your symptoms and pairing it together and figuring out where is this coming from? Because we know if you are struggling with cortisol and we're not, supporting your body with that, you are always going to struggle. Like always going to struggle because you're just adding band-aids to things. We're not addressing the root cause of your issues. And that fat burning pathway is always going to be blocked. So this is where we need to be aware that it's not as easy as macros. It's not as easy as eat less, move more. Because there's so many things that can block that fat burning pathway, that can overstimulate that storage pathway, telling your body we have enough energy, let's store, despite the fact that you are eating less and moving more. And then you get so angry and so frustrated because it's not working and you push harder without realizing that you're sending cortisol through the roof. We don't want that. So how do we improve our cortisol levels to open up those fat burning pathways? This is a big thing for the majority of women that we work with, myself included. This is how I lost 7 pounds very quickly. It was a matter of 2 weeks. It was insane how quickly my body dropped everything once I started addressing this and the other hormonal imbalances that I was dealing with, like my low estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone, my high androgens, which we're going to talk about on the next podcast, my cortisol levels. And it's not just like a one and done. This is something that it's going to take time. If I were to cut calories, I'd probably gain weight again. And so how do we fix this? What are the first steps when it comes to cortisol? Sleep is huge. Studies show if you are getting poor sleep, you are going to burn less fat. You are going to lose more muscle. You're going to have worse blood sugar control. You're more likely to be leptin resistance. We're going to really struggle with our energy and cravings. That doesn't help you lose fat. And your cortisol just goes sky high because your body needs energy because it never recovered. So it's constantly telling your body to break things down for energy because you didn't recover enough overnight. So sleep is a very, very big one. The next one is breath work and meditation. Feet up. This all helps lower cortisol. And so I really struggle with like meditation stuff because my mind just races. And I think a lot of women are like that. And so for me, I find that very challenging. So I like to do feet up with breath work. So I will lay on the floor, feet up on the wall, and that actually slows down your breathing, your heart rate, brings blood pressure down, forces you out of fight or flight into rest and digest. And then I pair that with box breathing. So I like to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And I do this for about 5 minutes. And this has done wonders for digestion. It helps improve bloating so much. If you're someone who bloats as the day goes on, so if your bloating gets worse as the day goes on, this is stress bloat. So doing feet up can do wonders for you, bring down inflammation, and that can also open up your fat burning pathways, which is amazing. And so this is something that we do with almost every single client. Taking magnesium as a supplement. We love magnesium here. Doing 400 milligrams at nighttime can do wonders for you. I have a powder that I like to use, but there's also like capsules you can take if you want. Those are all in our supplement guide for you. We want to make sure that we are avoiding excessive fasting. So fasting has a time and a place. It's not meant to be a lifestyle. You are supposed to have a specific start and end date. We want to make sure that you're eating enough calories, getting enough protein, the right nutrition in between. But there's also a start date and stop date. Like, are we doing it for a few days? Are we doing it for a week? It's not meant to be a long-term thing. And you want to make sure you're getting specific nutrients. Otherwise, you're not going to get the full benefit from it. And so we find a lot of women are fasting and actually increasing their cortisol more because your cortisol is always going to be highest in the morning. It's supposed to. Like, we want that. But it's supposed to come down throughout the day. And for a lot of women, it does not. It just stays elevated because we are not eating, which is a stress on our body. So then our body is breaking things down to dump sugar into our bloodstream. We're having coffee on an empty stomach, which is a stimulant, which also increases cortisol. So instead of it being up and then coming down slowly throughout the day, it just stays elevated. And this leads to blood sugar issues, hormone issues, thyroid issues, inability to build muscle mass. So making sure that we are having breakfast is really important. We're having a protein heavy breakfast. We're talking 30 grams plus of protein. I always say minimum 25, but ideally if you can do 30, that is so much better. Making sure that you are having some high fiber carbs in there, but a protein heavy breakfast is key to really helping support your hormones and cortisol. We want to avoid eating low carb. Carbohydrates actually help bring your cortisol levels down. So if we're eating low carb, we're missing out on that. So we want to make sure we're having the right amount of carbohydrates, having them at every single meal, just eating most of your protein and veggies first before dipping into your carbs. If you're having a sandwich, just have some veggies and dip first. Have a side salad first. Make it super simple for yourself. If we're eating too low calorie, this also increases cortisol. So for myself, I had to pull myself out of my deficit. I was at like 1,500 calories and I started gaining weight, like 3 pounds, 4 pounds, just started creeping up very quickly. My energy was tanking. I was super emotional. I didn't feel like myself. I honestly felt crazy. I couldn't work out. I was exhausted despite sleeping long, but I was waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. Like, I was a freaking mess. And so as I increased my calories slowly, all of a sudden I was sleeping better. My energy was consistent. I didn't have cravings. I wasn't crying at the drop of like literally nothing. I wasn't super emotional. I could focus again. I didn't feel insane. I still haven't gone back to working out yet. It's been 5 weeks that I've taken a break from the gym and my body is starting to feel better. But like, as soon as you feel better, you can't just jump into pushing again because you haven't given your body enough time. It takes time for that healing. And so Increasing calories, make sure you're eating enough calories, make sure you're having enough carbs, make sure you're prioritizing your sleep. Those are huge ones. Adjusting exercise. If you're doing high intensity, we're probably going to pull you back on that and focus on walking and resistance training. But depending on the severity, we might have to pull you back for a few weeks. And I mean, I did that, and that's how I dropped 7 pounds. The inflammation and the bloating and water retention just dropped because now my hormones were able to come back up slowly. My cortisol is not as high. So that makes a very big difference. Then we want to make sure that we are decreasing highly processed foods and alcohol intake as much as possible, because otherwise inflammation increases from those. Inflammation blocks fat burning. Inflammation makes blood sugar control worse. Inflammation is going to also cause that cortisol to go up. So we want to make sure that we are eating a mostly whole food diet, that we are taking out as much of the processed foods as we can. You can still have a little bit, right? But most people think they're only having 20% highly processed foods, but it's usually more than that, because you've got the protein bars, you've got, our treats and things like that. There's a lot of highly processed foods that we have that we don't even realize are processed. Hydration is big. If we are dehydrated, our kidneys actually tell our body to stop producing urine when we are in a dehydrated state. And so then we start having bloating. Bloating leads to inflammation. Inflammation blocks fat burning and increases cortisol. We do not want that. Pay attention to your stimulants. Can we decrease that a bit for you? Increasing foods that lower inflammation. This was a really big one for me. We're doing this with our clients in a challenge right now where we are focusing on anti-inflammatory type foods to help support cortisol, to lower that inflammation, to decrease the bloating, open up those fat burning pathways. And it's been amazing. Getting sunshine in the morning. Huge for helping regulate cortisol. Get sunshine in your eyes as much as you can. Stimulate your vagus nerve. We have a whole podcast on exercises for that. That's episode 120 if you want to go back to that. Doing cold exposure, so cold showers. You can do like an ice pack on the back of your neck or on your back. You can do the cold plunge. Doesn't have to be as cold for women though, which is great news. That's a whole other episode that we're going to dive into. Practicing gratitude has been shown to lower cortisol levels substantially. So doing a journaling practice, doing what are you grateful for? Identifying those positive things, changing how you think can lower your cortisol levels a lot, which a lot of people think is crazy, because there is a reason why we do mindset work and there's calls in our coaching program every Monday, because this is something that needs to be addressed, because it does make a big difference that people don't even realize. Spending time in nature lowers cortisol. Go for a walk, put your feet in the grass, go to the beach, go to the mountains, do whatever it is, get outside. Not eating on the run. That's very stressful on our bodies. Paying attention to blue light exposure, not doing that before bed as much as you can, or putting on those blue blocker glasses. Oxytocin helps lower cortisol. So being with people, having meaningful conversation, getting hugs, being close with your partner, cuddling your babies, cuddling your pets, those things increase oxytocin and are incredible for you and will lower those cortisol. And I think it's really important to understand that anything that's going to improve your cortisol levels is going to improve your metabolism, making your body better at burning calories. It's going to improve your energy. When you have better energy, you're more likely to go for a walk. You're more likely to want to eat a salad. You're more likely to want to go to the gym. When you're exhausted, you want to sit in front of the couch with Netflix, watching Love is Blind, just like crushing some itchy band noodles. That is me. That is where I am when I am not in a good place. It helps reduce brain fog, right? If we are confused and can't focus, we don't want to go do things. So you'll have improved concentration and memory just by improving cortisol. You'll see a decrease in your cravings because your blood sugar is going to get better. You're going to see a reduction in your abdominal belly fat. We're going to see improved sleep quality. We are going to be able to actually build and maintain muscle mass and actually look like we work out, which is amazing because that's what most of us want. You're going to have a decrease in your anxiety symptoms. You're going to have improved hormonal profile and the symptoms that go along with it. And anything that helps improve your cortisol control is going to pull you out of that storing pathway. It is going to open up that fat burning pathway so you actually have the ability to lose weight. Your body isn't being told, hey, we have enough, let's store despite eating less and moving more. Your fat burning pathway actually opens and your body gets better at burning calories, burning fat without having to drop your calories. That's amazing. That's where we want to be. That's what we want, right? And for some people, it's going to take a longer time. because you've been doing all the wrong things for a long time. And it's not your fault that you have put your body in this position, because you did the best that you could with the information that you had at the time. Now you have access to this podcast. You have access to hundreds of free resources and guides in our Facebook community. There's 25,000 women in that community who have access to every guide we have ever made, every webinar we've ever had, every podcast. Everything is organized in there, that's easy to find. You can ask questions for us, all in that Facebook community. That's also in the show notes for you. But this is going to be key. Now you have the information that you need to really understand how your body is working, meeting your body where it's at, and opening up those fat burning pathways to make fat loss even an option. Because if those fat burning pathways are blocked, you can do everything. You can have the perfect macros. You can hit your calories perfectly. You can eat less and move more and do your exercise routine exactly as it is to a T. You can get super sweaty. You can eat super clean. You can hit the protein. You can do all the things. And if that fat burning pathway is blocked, you will really struggle to lose weight and let alone keep it off. So, like I mentioned, we do have that 8-week program. If you want to join, that is the closest that you will get to one-to-one coaching. You have access to that coach. They are going to change your plan on a regular basis based on how your body is responding. There is no guessing. We are doing hormonal symptom assessments. We are meeting your body where it's at and teaching you the exact steps that you need and holding your hand through that to help you understand how do we open up your specific fat burning pathways so you can actually lose weight. Information for that is in the show notes. I love you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.